I wrote my first album essentially based on a dare. I remember I was maybe 18 years old or 19 years old, and I had just started learning French at one of the language institutes in my country. And the impetus for learning French for me, other than my dad forcing me to pick up a new language, was to make a new song or to make music in a new language. This was like the entire story of how I ended up making my first French song, which I believe still to this day exists on the different music platforms. So I essentially wrote what I believe to be the lyrics of my first song, put some very, very basic melody and like a very simple chord progression over it. Recorded all of this with the best of my abilities and the technology that I had available to me in 2007, I think. No, not even, I don't know, 7, 8 maybe, and gave it to my teacher, and then nothing. I don't even know what I was expecting as feedback, but I would say maybe a month after I sent her the song to send my teacher, she calls me on my phone one day, which she had never done before, and says, "Hey, can you be at this specific address today at 5 p.m.? So, okay. I think I was a freshman back then, maybe a sophomore. I think I was a sophomore, and I had I don't remember what class, what course I had at the time. I think it was drama, because my bachelor is in literature. I think I had drama, and I believe I may have left the class earlier to get to the address. It was rather far from where my university was. So we go to the place. I don't see and I realize that place that I'm going to is very well protected. It's not like a normal office building. It looks like a big deal, essentially. I later realized that the place I had gone to was linked to the government of France and the embassy and things of that nature. But at the time, my 18 or 19-year-old brain wasn't able to comprehend all of this. So I go in, I try to find my teacher. She is nowhere to be found. Then the reception person at the table in the front asks me if I have any specific meetings with anybody, and I tell him this is the situation. My teacher told me this and that, and it was explaining that to the guy. I believe I did it in French, and this is like basic French. I think I'm slightly above that level now after almost 20 years. But he says, "All right, let me call our culture, the person who's responsible for our cultural stuff." He calls the guy, and the guy says, "Yes, my teacher is with him, and that I should go up to the 3rd floor or to the 2nd floor to them," which I promptly do. And I find my teacher in a room smiling, with the guy smiling. I was like, okay, this is weird. Something is about to happen, and I'm not a fan of this. The guy tells me he asks me if I'm able to have a conversation with him in French. And I jokingly say, I will try my best, but I can't make any promise or something of that nature. He then laughs, and then I realize, hey, I may have just made my first joke in French. Then he says, "Hey, this is a very good song. This is a very nice piece of music, but in order for us to do anything with it, this needs to be either longer or you need to make more music." This is me in my earliest days of learning French. I probably had been going to my French courses unwillingly for maybe 4 months or 5 months at that time. And so my immediate reaction was to just chuckle and turn it down. But my teacher took over, and she said, "Don't worry, we're going to fix it. We're going to make it into something else. We're going to make it into a couple of songs." And I said, okay, maybe she has a plan that I don't understand yet. Then they start talking about things that I still to this day do not know what they were talking about, because they were speaking extremely quickly. If you don't know, French in general is a very fast language. You need to be able to follow the conversation very well, and you need to be able to understand quick speech to really follow along with what's going on. And then we leave their office, and my teacher offers to give me a ride home, since my home was very far from that office. I accept, and on our way back, she explains to me that these people can essentially make miracles happen as long as we play their game. So okay, that's pretty cool. Let's go. What am I supposed to do? And then she says, well, you made one song, that's the hard part. Now make a couple more. I was like, are you sure about this? I barely passed the exams of like the French alphabets and the simple conjugation and all of that. She says, yeah, you can do it. So I go back home and I start making pretty noises. So there I was in my little bedroom with my barely tunable guitar and the computer programs and plugins and banks that I essentially had pirated, which I explained in a different video, the whole story, trying to, all right, what am I creative about? Then I realized I had zero sources of inspiration. I had no idea how to even make music. Prior to that, I had made songs, but those were essentially a bunch of chords and a bunch of lyrics on top of each other, which a lot of people might consider songs, but to me, there should always be some kind of a flow. There should be some kind of a movement, some kind of a dynamic, some kind of a narrative, story, whatever you want to call it. And so I started thinking, what am I happy about? What am I pissed off about? What am I in love about? What am I want to be in love about? All of those things. And I essentially tried to program my song structure, because I said, all right, let's have a song that is electronic. Let's have a song that's just piano. Let's have a song that's like heavy and hard rock. And again, remember, this is several years ago, almost 2 decades ago, and my music knowledge was elementary at best. So I make a bunch of songs, and from all of these songs, I choose 4 or 3 to give to my teacher, to then give to the guy at the culture offices and all of that, which she listens to, and she does. And then the guy himself calls me on my phone. And at the time, I didn't have a smartphone. I had a I think it had like 4 colors on its screen, and it did not have the option to show the number of the person who's calling or something of that nature, because it was showing up as either X's or like unknown number or something like that, which scared the hell out of me. But I pick up the phone, it's a Friday morning, I think it's a Friday morning, and I'm super sleepy. The guy then says, hey, we listen to the song, let's talk about an album, and let's talk about a live show. And I'm like, what? Are they guys listening to the same things that I made? Because yes, I did make music. Yes, I did make noises that are audible, but album and live performance, is this some kind of a joke? In my sleepiness and in my basic French, I asked the guy, I said, sure. And then he said, all right, let's meet next week, Thursday, in my office, 2 p.m., something like that. And I thought that he meant next week, Thursday at 2 p.m. my office, I should bring the album with me. So I worked my entire behind off, and I was able to scrape an album-ish together in like 8 days, 7 days, something like that. Maybe it was 2 weeks, I don't remember, but it was a very short amount of time, and I had misunderstood what he was talking about, I think. So I show up to his office with an album. He listens to the songs, and he says, all right, these are good, this is good, this is good, this is good. I don't like the name of your album. I suggest this as the name of your album. And then he suggests the name of the album that to this day is still the name of the album, which is a French translation of the phrase "with the angels" or "avec les anges," which is a section of a lyric of one of the songs. And that essentially gave birth to this whole idea of, all right, I guess my music thing is going to be the original idea of, angels and demons and all of that. And something clicked in my head. If my first album is going to be about angels and positive stuff, let's see if I can make my second album demon themed and like heavier and more serious music. Never mind the fact that my second album, despite its name being with the demons or parmi les diables, it's not as heavy as I thought I was going to make. I think my happiest and my most danceable music is also in that album, because after that album, so many things changed. And but I want to focus on my first album on this in this video, so I won't talk about that. That's why I'm in this gorgeous, beautiful park in a day in May. So we say, okay, let's do this thing, let's make the thing. And then my friend and my I guess partner in crime, Cheyenne, he comes up with the idea of making an album, like physical album, and then gift it to people on our show day, which was on May 26th, 2000 something. I don't remember exactly the year, but like 20 some years ago. And so we write the songs, I try to write the lyrics. Every like lyrics that I write, I send to my professor to correct, and I receive an email with 12 red lines and like corrections and everything, which clearly suggests that I am definitely not ready for this. I don't think I'm ready for this today, but I feel more ready now. But she always comes back to me with like suggestions and lyrics thing, and she says, hey, I think you wanted to say this, but you use this word. The expression you use is very English. It's not French enough, because in French the enunciations or the different points of phrases are different, and I make adjustments. The issue is that most of the times at those days, I would write the lyrics based on like sung or whistled melodies, and so if a word changes, it is possible that the whole melody has to change, and that is not something I was capable of doing. A lot of times I had to like force my way, like force the word and the phrasing into the sentence. Now, I think I've said this before, and if I haven't, again, one of my most inspirational, I guess, one of the bands that I love the most, and they have inspired me the most in songwriting and storytelling in music, is Pink Floyd. And I think if you look at even if you look at the song titles or the album arts that I've made, you'll probably see similarities, because I absolutely adore these people and their music. Everything they've done, from their first albums that for a lot of people are very different than their later albums, and everybody likes an album differently. Everybody likes this album over that album, while you prefer that album over this album, all of that. But for me, Pink Floyd has always been the pinnacle of storytelling in music. I had never listened by that time to the Beatles or the Stones. And for me, music and storytelling in music, serious music, was always about Pink Floyd. And most of Pink Floyd's albums, they always began with an instrumental number. They're trying to set the stage, they're trying to set the tone, they're trying to, give us the vibes as to what is going on in the album. And so I tell my buddy, hey, let's have an instrumental intro and an instrumental outro. Not only are we making the album seem more professional, it's also going to be longer, and well, we can, I guess, weasel our way into pretending that we are professional musicians, something of that nature. Remember, I was a sophomore, and I believe he was a freshman at the time. So we did that. He writes the introduction track completely on his own. I have zero influence over it. I just tell him, hey, let's just make sure that the introduction track that you make has this or shares the same key as the second song of the album, because that way it becomes more holistic when the first song goes into the second song. And that was like the only, I guess, instruction I had, or like a request I had for the first song. And I was working on the last song. My responsibility was the last song, the epilogue, and his thing was the first song. His like mission was the first song. We do our things, we make the album, we record the stuff. And I remember for the first song, we went to a professional studio to record the vocals, because I said it would be a cool idea. Haha, look at me 20 years later. Let's film this process, because I love making of videos and behind the scenes videos. They really feel good. As me as a viewer is taken in the backstage, and I can see what's going on what is the process of making an album, because then I would learn a lot just by watching them. So all right, let's do this thing. And at the time we had a very, very, very poor quality camcorder, which was for another buddy of ours. I think the camera was his mom's or his dad's, I don't remember, which we ended up breaking, and it's a whole thing. But we do this thing, we film ourselves, we go to the very, very professional studio, and I was like, yes, this is my life's calling. It feels so good. And we explained to the guy, hey, we're going to sing in French. Do you want the lyrics? And then he says, no, I don't speak French. It's okay. You do you. He starts to record, and I sing the first line. He then, like after I'd say maybe 10 seconds, he stops the recording, and I can't hear anything because I am in the recording booth, and they are in the sound room. They're in the mixing studio. And so it's mute. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. They just pause, and then the recording guy starts laughing. Now, at the time, my automatic response mentally was the guy is obviously making fun of me, which dramatically affected my performance that day. And we ended up not recording the song there. We recorded the song there, but it was so, like, my voice was so shaky, so unsure, and just so bad that we never used those audio files. And I wish the guy who laughed at me, if he was laughing at me, I wish he had explained why he was laughing. But again, I was 18 or 19 years old, and at that age your ego is bruised very easily. So I never asked him about it. Later, like several years later, I realized that they just closed up shop and left, which is a sad thing because I was going to hopefully talk to him about it. But anyway, moving on. Then I realized that in all of the lyrics, in every part of the album, what I am doing is very simply, I'm just telling the story of how I'm making this album. It's essentially that the songs that I'm working on and the people that I have helping me, essentially these are my angels. These people are showing me a new way to live, a way or a method or a lifestyle that I never thought was even possible. I would have loved to be a musician my entire life, but at that time I didn't know that was my dream, if it makes any sense. So the whole process of making an album on a basic and elementary budget and technology, and pirated technology as that as well, was so fun and so amazing. And finally we finished the album with its, like I said, questionable quality. We listened to the final disc just before we sent it to the publishing house. We got the CDs, we got the covers and everything. We had a friend of ours help with the graphic design of it. And I don't have a physical copy of that album anymore. I wish I did, but I don't. But it's like a green cover that has like a wing, like a butterfly wing on it. And when you open like the booklet, it opens to look like wings. It looks really cool. I think it looks really cool, but I don't have a physical copy of it, so I don't know. Then came the show night, and we were opening for, at the time, a very famous, I believe, Swiss artist, Jeremy Kinsling, something like that. I don't remember. We were opening for the guy, and like I said, this show, which essentially was my first real show in front of maybe 200 people who probably weren't even listening to what we were doing, but it created a spark. It made a spark in my head that would not be extinguished for 20 plus years after it. Because I remember as the show was over and we were invited to stay for the dinner, suddenly I went from some almost dropout to having dinner with the ambassador to France and his wife and the representatives of the country of Switzerland and Belgium, and I was like, what? How is this even possible? And all of this is thanks to my teacher, by the way, shout out to her. But there was something like good timing, good moments, and I guess I was ready, but I didn't know I was ready. I thought this was all just my idea was to make one song in French, so I feel like I have done something, because personally, still to this day, I value creativity and the process sometimes a lot more than just the results, right? But for me, the idea of making an album in my, I guess, if we count Arabic, my fourth language, was insane. Like, how is it even possible? But we did it. The album came out, and it was fun for maybe 3 to 4 months after it. But then something sinister happened. There's a moment whenever you finish a project when you are alone with your thoughts, you're alone with yourself. It usually happens when you're about to go to bed and sleep, or when you're taking a shower, like when you're like completely alone in the physical world, right? That is the moment that these sinister thoughts happen, because I asked myself the most toxic, dangerous, volatile, I don't know what adjective to use here, question, which was, so we did this, cool, what's next? Now this could be a measurement of success or resolve, or it could be just the gauge of your insanity, or it's just that it could be a personality flaw as well, that I just do not satiate. I feel like I can always do more. I feel like I want to do more, and I feel like the most recently finished project, irrespective of its size and scope, is absolute horrible. It's just disastrous. And next time I need to do better, do more, and just be better. This has been my mentality for the past 20 some years, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon based on the trends in my life right now, which is, I guess it's okay. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of dangerous too. Anyway, maybe a couple months after that, not even maybe a couple of weeks after that, the question came to my head, hey, I had a lot of fun. The whole process of laying down tracks, recording, re-recording, editing, vocals, tuning, all of that. It felt so good. I want to do more of this. And that's going to be the story for my next video. And so, first off, thank you so much for coming with me on this walk, which was a really lovely walk in a beautiful, gorgeous weather here in Strasbourg, France. And I want to go one by one in the album. So hopefully by the 6th or 7th video, we'll get to today and right now and what's happening. If this story made sense to you, you had fun with it, that would be super cool if you could do the YouTube thing and subscribe to the channel. But as always, I always understand if you don't. Everybody's free. We are living in a world of free will, and in this simulation, we need to pretend we're free, right? So thank you so much for watching this video. Stay safe, stay sane, wherever you are, whenever you are, and I will be seeing you very soon, now that the bulk of my work is finished. I can dedicate a lot of time to making videos and to, well, telling more stories. Thank you for watching. Peace.